Good morning, guys. Okay, so yeah, you guys can hear my voice is kind of hoarse today, which is why I didn't post a video yesterday. But the day before that, I did the reading. I think I titled it like "Insane Eclipse." This person from the long past comes back. And, when I do readings, I'm not doing readings for myself. I'm doing readings for you guys. So it's not meant to be my situation, my reading, my energies, I'm channeling like, for the collective, but it freaked me out. I'm not going to lie. It freaked me out because, obviously, so, and by the way, I may or may not pull any cards, but the reason that I'm doing this video today is because, yes, I'm doing like twin flame readings and tarot readings. But as a twin flame, I've been on this journey as well myself, of course. And so I feel like the most important thing that I want to try and share on this channel is some shadow work aspects, like how to actually go through this journey and heal stuff, because it is a really, really difficult journey. A lot of readers, the twin flame readers, you'll very rarely hear them discuss any kind of personal situations with their twin flame. And I totally get why. It's difficult. Nobody, we're not required to, right? Like you only have to share up to your level of comfort. And so I'm not criticizing anyone for that, but part of what I believe is, for all of us that are on a spiritual path and who have been through awakening, is authenticity. Authenticity is like, very important to doing our work. So anyway, it definitely, that reading that I did for you guys, it freaked me out because I have a person, when I went through my spiritual awakening in kind of 2017 and 2018, I was out in California. I was working for Tesla in the seat manufacturing facility. And that is where I met the person who I thought was my twin flame. And I had never heard of the twin flame concept before. This is, but like I said, this paralleled in my spiritual awakening journey is meeting this person. And they very much were a catalyst, to my awakening. And so, then it was sometime later, in the progression of that, friendship, situationship, whatever it was, that I came across the concept of twin flames. And that was the first time I had ever heard of it. And, but, what that person actually was, whether it's twin flame, false twin, catalyst, karmic, honestly, I don't know. I just know that it was really toxic. But, anyway, when I did the reading the other day about this person coming back, I wanted to kind of share a little bit because that dredged up for me some like, I was like, oh my God, what if this person, because I haven't spoken to them in like a year at this point at all. That was when we finally, cut everything off for good. And so I kind of want to go through some of that because I do think it's actually important. And so this is why I thought I'd share some of my paintings because a lot of my art really helped me process through this journey. And so I thought that, because I didn't want to be on camera, I got to talk about some hard stuff. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to be on camera in case I cry, which I might. But anyway, I wanted to talk about this because I think it's important. I think, when all of those feelings came up having to do with that reading, and like whether or not this was also going to apply to me, because I immediately just felt like a ton of anxiety. I felt like really nervous about it, and scared. And I again, at this point in the part of my journey, I know how to identify when that shadow feeling comes up, and I see that, like, why I ask myself, why do I feel nervous about this? Why do I feel scared about this? So that I can walk through that. And the truth of the matter is that when, this is that I had really cut off, like I said, a year ago. I didn't look at this person's like social media. I really, really got to the point of finally being able to release that connection, like really release. And if you've been on the twin flame journey, you know how hard that is when you've got someone that's always stuck in your head every day. So anyway, I kind of want to go back to that when I met my twin, and I'm not going to go into too many like personal details about this, but what I can tell you is that my father is a narcissist, and that was a big part of my recognizing that, identifying that, and sort of starting to process that was also happening in parallel to my spiritual awakening. And so anyway, there were a lot of dynamics that I was, if you're familiar with narcissist, kind of dynamics at all, it's really a long learning process, like healing from that, because you learn so much as a child, that you have to that you have just mirrored in so many ways with like every aspect of your life, if you're, the child of a narcissist. And not exclusively narcissist. The cluster B personality disorders, and you don't even have to have like a personality disorder to damage someone, right? People can also have these traits, and cause the same kind of damage. And I'm not a psychologist either. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. So, I can't really diagnose people, but I'm pretty sure my dad's a narcissist. But anyway, so what I came to realize at this point is that, all of my previous relationships of any kind, I was just hyper independent. And I essentially had an avoidant attachment style. So I didn't really let people get like into my heart space. Let's put it that way. So it was always easier for me to cut off relationships. Like before meeting this person, I could really easily cut off relationships when I grew tired of them, or if they got too close, or whatever it was. You know what I mean? And that's what I did. And then with meeting this person, it was different. It was different. And I met them at work. Basically, at Tesla, the factory floor is always changing, and they move where our desks were and stuff like that all the time. So I came into work one day, and my desk is empty, all my shit is on the floor, and they're like, the bullpen is now the MRB area, so you're supposed to go move your desk somewhere onto the line. So I'm like, what the hell? So I go and move like my desk onto one of my lines, and there was a desk of a process technician on that line, a quality process technician. And as I, was pushing my desk, he kind of comes over, and it was so weird, you guys, like, and it's never happened before, and it's never happened since. But when this guy came over, I heard a voice in my head that said, always be kind to him. And that was just weird, right? And so anyway, that was kind of the beginning, and whatever. And it was, that connection was happened for over the span of about 4 years. And it was never, it was toxic. I mean, that's, and I started to see, like, like I said, I was healing stuff about my dad and, kind of those dynamics. And I started to see that this guy also had, it's not like I didn't see these red flags. There were red flags everywhere, right? But for whatever reason, then all of a sudden, and again, in hindsight now, I can tell you what happened is this guy, for however reason or whatever reason, got into kind of like my heart space. Like, he got in there. And I did not know how to interact. I had no experience, essentially. I may have had relationships before, but again, they were that avoidant attachment style. So I wasn't really deeply connected to them. And, but once I was in this connection with this guy, my attachment style was anxious. And I was very clingy, very imbalanced. And I didn't see these things about myself at the time. I was, just going through this, but I can acknowledge this now, in hindsight, that essentially I was extremely toxic in this dynamic as well. It was very unhealed. But like I said, I do truly believe, regardless of if this guy's twin flame, catalyst, karmic, whatever, in the twin flame journey, that is what these interactions and connections and relationships are about. We focus, and I get it, because, I focused for 4 years. And there were separations in between there. I wasn't consistent. We would talk for a while and then not talk for like 4, 6, 8 months, and then talk again. And then, it was very back and forth like that. This is what it's about, is these connections come into our lives so that they expose our shadows, what needs to be healed with us. And so that we can do that healing and that releasing. But the tricky part in the twin flame journey is that we are so focused on our twin. We are so focused on our twin and seeing all their flaws and their toxicity, and and he, certainly had all of that, right? But I was so focused on that, and I felt, a lot of anger and hurt and all of that, for everything that I experienced through that connection. And that was always my focus in that 4 years. It wasn't really till, I'm going to share some of what happened in Peru. And this helped me a lot. So last December, so this was almost a year ago at this point, I had planned a trip to go to Peru, and basically, a spiritual journey that half of the trip I was going to be spending as a retreat in the Sacred Valley with shamans. It's Peru shamans, if anybody's interested. But I needed that healing, and I knew I needed that healing. And so I went and did that. And I did an ayahuasca retreat. So I want to share a little bit about the ayahuasca experience, because you may have seen it, heard about it, whatever. It is it's ritual medicine. And it's a root, ayahuasca, and the shamans prepare this brew of it, right? And then essentially these ceremonies, and it was just me. I didn't do this in a group or anything. I was very fortunate. This is post-COVID at this point, and I booked this trip pre-COVID, but then had to reschedule and stuff. But anyway, so I was very fortunate in that respect, that it was me, it was the interpreter, and it was the shaman. So I went down there and did that, and it was 2 different nights. I had 2 different ceremonies, one, back to back. And, the first night, it's, a lot of people will experience that, the first night is hard in terms of the visions that you receive. Like, they can be hard or very dark. And then the second night is usually like, kind of more optimistic and seeing more like the future. So, the first night, I go in and I was very anxious. I was nervous because I was like, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what I was going to experience. And, I went through this whole vision. It was amazing. It was amazing. And it was, there was some, profound healing moments within that vision about, reflections on myself and, kind of my purpose and all that stuff here. But overall, I felt like it was pretty optimistic. And so I kind of felt like, I felt a little bit proud of myself, you guys. My ego definitely came into it, because I was just like, I think that's definitely, again, as the daughter of a narcissist, I struggled with issues with my ego as well. Let's put it that way, because that was, for me, that was how I earned my love and attention, was by achieving, right? That was kind of my space within the narcissist dynamic, because I was the golden child. Right? Because it was either, you have to bring the narcissist attention somehow. And whether or not that's positive or negative, either your failures will be fodder for the narcissist to say like, oh, my kid's so, like always screwing up, and, poor me, whatever, right? Or if you achieve, then you can be the nicest narcissist shining star and say, oh, my kid got this, and oh, my kid got the scholarship, oh, and my kid got accepted to, this university, and, and so that was me. I achieved a lot in terms of, my academic career, as well as like my, my career, and anyway, so I was really proud of myself, and I thought, wow, how angelic am I that like I didn't have this real dark experience like most people have. I must not have much darkness, right? Let me tell y'all something. Don't fuck with ayahuasca, because she will get you, man. And it is a she. It's an earth energy. Anyway, so the next night I went into the ceremony again, and I felt a lot more confident because I'd gone through it once. It wasn't that, dark or anything, and so whatever. But so I'm sitting in the little space with the shaman. It's kind of like a hut. I'm sitting there with the shaman and my interpreter. And so the interpreter is telling me that, the shaman had, walked through my life the night before, and he saw, my father, and I hadn't told them stuff. I told them very, kind of like top level, of like what I wanted to work on. I said my father was a narcissist, but I didn't didn't say anything beyond that. And I also said that there was this guy that, and that I want to get over. And so, I'm sorry, you guys, hang on. Hey, quit. Sorry, guys. I just don't want, they're going to keep barking otherwise. Anyway, so so those are the kind of the two things that I had told him. So he starts saying that, like, that he was walking through my life, and, I'd already taken the ayahuasca at this point. And, just as I'm going to like lay down, cause you stay in that, like that theta delta kind of energy, like during the ayahuasca, that's where you're not asleep, but you're also not fully awake. Like you're in that, that theta state. So anyway, I'm going into that. And then the interpreter tells me that, that he saw my paintings, that the shaman saw my paintings. I had not told them about my paintings. I had not, shared any of that with them. And my social media is all private, right? And that's the only place that I had posted my paintings previously was on my private social media. And this is the painting I want to show you that, this was the painting that the shaman had seen. And I painted this for, you can see that as my dog Bug that passed away, about 4 months before I came to Arkansas. So almost 5 years ago. Anyway, so this painting is very much about my spiritual journey. And that's why I'm naked in it, and have the tangles of the seaweed, because this is what it's felt like for me. Like you're swimming through a dark ocean at night with only moonlight to guide you. Like, you're trying to make it through this journey and on this path. And Bug is she's my soulmate. And she, after she died, I remained very connected with her spirit. And so she really had been guiding me, since she passed away strongly, like on this journey. So this is my favorite piece, and it has a lot of meaning for me. Well, the shaman saw this painting. Okay. Probably gonna cry, just to warn you. He saw this painting, and he said that he didn't see the dog, though, that he saw the boy, that he saw the guy, this guy in California, and he said that you had been chasing. And I can't even tell you at that point, like, again, I had just taken the ayahuasca. I was in this vulnerable state. And now the shaman is telling me that he had seen my paintings. He described it. And he said, but he saw, instead of a dog there, he saw this person. And I was angry. I was angry with, like, how? Oh, like that's my dog, man. And I just felt like this intense anger of, like, how could he corrupt my painting like that? And so going into this state, I I started feeling that, which I'm not comfortable with, like anger as an emotion. That wasn't like an acceptable emotion, for me as a kid, because my dad was the one that had the kind of unpredictable anger. Anyway, then, then she tells me, the shaman also says that you need to take a nap from work. And first of all, I was like, well, what the fuck does that mean? I'm gonna put this painting and bug down. First of all, I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, take a nap from work? Like, what does that mean? And sorry guys. So anyway, I'm going into my ayahuasca state, and which is very vulnerable. And I felt just so much anger and annoyance going into that, because I'm like, how am I getting feedback from the shaman right now about like working too much? And how is this guy showing up in my painting? Like, what is going on? So then I go and I start, then I'm like grasping. I'm just grasping with the energy, because, the translator at one point, she starts to say, like, are you seeing anything? And I had such clear visions the night before. And so at this point, all I'm doing is I'm just kind of mentally, struggling with this feeling of anger and resentment. And I'm trying to get towards that space of like being able to have the vision. And I just felt like so frustrated, because then Jenny comes up to me and she's like, are you having visions yet? Like, it almost felt like they were getting impatient with me. Like, why isn't she having visions yet? And she asked me if I wanted more ayahuasca, and I said no. And she, she's like, well, are you having visions? I said yes, but I said, but I don't know what they mean, because at this point I did start seeing things, but it was fucking weird. It was like, I started seeing like monsters, like popping up, and then this code trickling down. And I was like, what is going on? So I start seeing these monsters like kind of spawning up like in a video game. And then I see the shaman. Like in my vision, I could see him watching me in my vision, right? And I was like, and I got really annoyed that he was watching me. And so I turned into, I know this is gonna sound crazy, guys, but I turned into a jaguar, like a black panther, because that was the spirit that had come to me the night before. But anyways, so I turned into this jaguar because I didn't want the shaman to be looking at me in my vision. And so then, when I started trying to like, as a jaguar, like intimidate the shaman, and like, because I wanted to be left alone. I was in that real kind of hurt, anger energy that I'm not comfortable with. And also, then within my essentially consciousness, the shaman's sitting there watching me, and I'm like, what the? So anyway, as I'm doing this, the shaman is just silently watching as I'm, kind of trying to like intimidate him to leave me alone. And at one point he comes and he rolls me over as a panther, and he shows me all of these sores on my stomach, like lesions. Because like I was essentially trying to use magic at this point to like push him away. And he showed me that I was too weak to wield that magic. And so then I started running, like essentially running away. And like bears had always, for me prior, been my spirit animal. And but it was just, I just met this jaguar or whatever. So I said, in my vision, I said, I don't want it to be this. I want to go back to the bears. And So I turned into a bear and I started going with the bears. And the bears have been with me like my whole life, right? So anyway, so I go and then, I kind of, I left where the shaman could watch me, because he could watch me as a jaguar, right? But so I escaped with the bears. So anyway, then I'm with the bears, and but then ayahuasca starts talking to me. I start going through these visions, and I start seeing that essentially, like, what the bears represented for me were all of the behaviors, the relationships, the everything, every aspect of my life that kept me comfortable with not growing. Let me put it that way. And I'm going to say alcohol, right? Alcohol was in particular a bear for me, because these were things that that let me avoid feeling the anger, or, like obsession, or like all of those shadows, all of those things that I was uncomfortable with, the aspects of my personality. That's what the bears were for me, because when I was with the bears, they made me feel comfortable. Like they made me feel like accepted, because like I didn't have to, like, just as I was, right? And we should be accepted for just as we are. Like we all are deserving of love. But like the bears for me were like, our point of being here is growth and healing, right? And the bears, as long as I was in contact or relationships with those bears, I didn't have to do that healing. I could essentially hibernate away from that. And so, when I finally see this and realize this within the vision, ayahuasca tells me that, that the bear has to die. That if I want to heal, that I want to escape this, because it would happen in the vision is basically, again, alcohol was, a big piece of that. And I felt within the vision, like, I started feeling like this intense sickness, like all of those lesions, that the shaman had shown me, on my stomach when I was a jaguar. All of those lesions came into, like, I could feel them. I could feel all of the sickness and all of the unhealed aspects of myself. And what it felt like to me was like when, if you've drank to that point of sickness, you know what I mean? Where you feel like you're going to die. You feel like you're going to die. That's what I felt like. I felt like I was so sick that I was going to die, and I was begging ayahuasca to release me from it. I'm sorry, you guys, but this is what shadow work looks like. It's messy, it's dirty, it's uncomfortable. So anyway, ayahuasca said, that the bear has to die, then in order for me to be released. And I didn't want the bears to die, because I love the bears. But at some point the suffering just becomes intolerable. And I mean, it's dying. And so I finally agreed, and I said, okay. And then ayahuasca said, but you have to kill the bear. Okay, so, God. Anyway, So me in my vision, and at this point, and out in the real world, a storm had come, through the mountains or through the valley. This huge thunderstorm. It was just pouring rain, thunder, lightning, and so in my vision, as to release myself from this sickness, I turned back into the Black Panther, and I killed the bear as a panther. I bit its neck, and I still remember seeing the expression of the bear, which was love. This bear was looking at me with love and acceptance while I was killing it. And so I just remember, being in that space, and once I killed the bear, I was just sobbing, like crying harder than I've ever cried in my life. Like just years of grief and pain and anger and sadness and regret coming out. And I remember the translator coming to me and saying, "Laura, are you okay?" And I was just, I couldn't even answer her. I was crying so hard. The shaman just, backed her off and said, "No, let her. And so anyway, then after, I kind of came through the end of that, I was sitting, and I'm starting to come out of the vision a little bit, but ayahuasca was still talking to me at this point. And so at one point I finally sat up in the room, and I asked, if it was over, and, and they said, "No, just wait." And so I'm just sitting there forever, and just thinking and processing all of this. And these realizations that I had, I knew I had to do something with them. And, so I'm sitting there thinking of who can I tell? Who am I supposed to tell about this? I'm going to change my life. I'm going to, whatever. And, so anyway, I'm just sitting there and thinking, and ayahuasca said to me at one point, that nobody's going to help you. You have to do this on your own. And so, and I realized that, because that was a big aspect and piece of, me and my personality, again, with that narcissist dynamic, is if I do something, I was constantly seeking validation from an external source for you're doing good, right? And so anyway, what I realized sitting there is that this is not about anyone else. This is not about, getting feedback from anyone else. This is about listening to myself, because part of what had happened with me along this spiritual journey is I went from, seeking that acceptance from my father, to seeking that acceptance from a romantic partner, to seeking that acceptance from, from my work, or strangers or whatever. And then to seeking that acceptance from God, and from, constantly asking, what am I supposed to do next? And so the reason I want to go back here is with the twin flame connection. That was a big part of, I think, my toxicity in it, is because I was, once I learned about the twin flame concept, I was no matter how toxic this situation or connection was with this person, I felt I'm supposed to stay in it because that's what I'm being asked of, is to be in this connection, regardless of how the impact or toll that it takes on me. And so what ayahuasca taught me is that all of the answers are truly within me. And I'm not going to find the answers from anyone else about what I should do with my life, my relationships, and whatever, and so anyway, when I after that experience, I never looked at this person from my past. I never looked at their social media again. I never, you know what I mean? I never tried to contact them, nothing. But I also, at that point, I was like, I don't believe in twin flames. I don't believe in it. You know what I mean? I completely walked off the journey. I completely walked off the journey. When I came back from Peru, I was just I never looked in that direction again. Here's the thing though, guys. So I think that's really how healing works. And this is a big piece that we miss, I think, in terms of our perspective, or at least I know that I did, is a lot of times when our trauma happens, because frankly, what that vision in Peru that second night, that was traumatic. That was traumatic. I feel like I went through on one level. It was like having gone to a decade of therapy in terms of how viscerally and tangibly those visions could bring up and show me exactly what I haven't healed. But at the same time, because it's so visceral and tangible, I mean, what happened with the bear, that happened for me. That is my experience. I went through that, and I didn't want to deal with that. I acknowledged that on a cognitive level of what that all meant, but I actually didn't want to process that, all of that pain and darkness. And so when that reading came up, yesterday or the day before, and then I started to question, is this for me too? When that came up, my fear of what if this person tries to come back and tries to contact me, and so, now at this stage with my shadow work, I know when that comes up, I need to address it, and I need to give myself the space to walk through that. And, so I started asking myself those questions about why am I scared? And honestly, it's because I think there's an aspect and a piece of myself that doesn't know or trust myself enough to say am I healed enough to not go back into a toxic dynamic with this person? Because this person is kind of my Achilles heel, right? It was just very, 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 very hard to walk away from that connection. And I just wanted to say this person is a bad person. They are toxic. I deserve better, right? And I hear that on so many readings, and I see that on people posting on threads, I deserve better. This person is toxic. I don't deserve that. It's true. But when I got really real with myself yesterday and last night, because I just spent the day cleaning and thinking and allowing myself to process this. Here's the thing. I honestly don't know. He definitely had toxicity. Definitely had some narcissistic traits, right? But here's the thing that I think that I really didn't want to look at, and I really didn't want to accept about looking back onto that period, is that I was toxic too. I was equally toxic. I'm going to say I was equally toxic as this person. I had zero boundaries. Zero boundaries. Okay. There are some things that I look back at now and I'm kind of like, and when I have anger about, certain things that happened, when I look objectively at some of the things that I did or just the interactions that I had or just but it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's and I don't know how he with some aspects had any connection to do with me after some of the unboundaried, kind of violations of personal space or kind of whatever. After I had done those things, why he would have any contact with me again. And I think fundamentally, the reality is that he was just as unhealed as I was, right? Like he was just as unhealed as I was. I've changed significantly. And I've identified so many of those things, and he may have too. I don't know. And my point is not that now I'm curious about that. Like, I don't have a desire for reconnection there. Like it is what it is. A lot has happened there. But my point is that we're not healed when we're still in a space of calling the other person toxic alone, because we wouldn't be in a toxic dynamic with someone if we weren't also toxic, right? I know that now because now I'm at a point where I am healed enough, and when I come up across like those toxic kind of dynamics, or I start to see that, I will distance myself from that energy. And it's not like a whole thing and, a betrayal and whatever, because my boundaries are there for me at this point to protect me and acknowledge that the reason it's not a betrayal is because you don't go down that road as far as you used to. And you don't overly invest in the way that I used to, or have all these expectations and fantasies about what could be and stuff. But so anyway, I think there was a big piece of that. So then I asked myself, okay, so if I see that I'm toxic too and I've changed now, so why am I uncomfortable if this person comes back, and what I had to remind myself of is that I trust myself now, that even if this person did come back, that I don't have to know whether or not they've changed or not, whether or not they've healed or not, because now I know and trust myself enough that because I'm at that space where I'm boundaried enough, I'm healthy enough that I can have any interaction with new people or old people and be able to make those assessments and decisions on my own without any validation or sanity check from tarot or my therapist or my mom or anyone else, right? And so I found some peace with that. Once I started reminding myself, you've got this, you know what I mean? But then the next piece that I went into is realizing that I had never allowed myself to fully grieve that situation, to grieve the aspects of it, to grieve to grieve the loss of that connection, the loss of my fantasy surrounding that connection, because if you're on that twin flame journey and you have this special I get it. You build this whole fantasy because these connections are surreal. They're surreal. They're not like connections you have with any other person. There's a magic to them, all these synchronicities and stuff like that. And so you do really sort of build up a fantasy of what could be, and you latch onto that fantasy, and then you get angry at the person for not fulfilling that fantasy. That's really what's happening. I mean, it's the twin flame journey, as far as I'm concerned, is completely about healing, like codependency issues, toxic dynamics, behavior patterns, all of that stuff. And all I can really say is regards to that, my past person, I hope that he's healed as well. I mean, I think that honestly, like, it's possible, but that regardless of everything that's happened in the past, what I can say is that connection fundamentally changed my life forever. And though it was hard, brutal. God, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful because this person from my past, they suffered too. And I really do believe, and this is part of what I saw in those visions, and I didn't want to believe it for a long time after having this vision, because it happened on the first night. What I saw is that essentially I know this sounds fucked up, y'all, but that both my dad and this person came into my life for that reason. That it wasn't done out of malice. Now, consciously, I'm not saying that these were their conscious intentions. I'm saying spiritual, like before we came into this world, and they're not conscious of it now. But I believe that these people agreed to break me so that I could rebuild myself. And honestly, I feel like it almost takes more strength. If someone truly loves you, it takes more strength for them to break you than it does to love you. Does that make sense? Like, if what you need is to be broken so that you could rebuild yourself, it's the jaguar and the bear, right? That this person is a bear for me. My dad was a bear for me. That there is love there, even though it's not what's going to make me healthy in the future. It's not something that it's not an energy I can have going forward, right? It's an energy of the past. But, so that's something, I think that's what I really tried to give my space. And, last night as I was going through this, is to remind myself that it's okay to love the bear. All of our past, all of the people in our past, as well as our past selves, which we may not be very proud of, those are our bears. Those are our bears. And the fact of the matter is that those may not be things that will help you grow anymore. They may bring you a lot of pain. But I don't know how I want to finish that now. But you can acknowledge that you don't want these people in your life anymore, right? Or that you don't need, once you've been broken, you don't need to be broken anymore. Once you've chosen that healing and you've gotten to a certain point where pain is not what helps grow you anymore, like that once you're an active participant in your healing and you can choose how and to actively heal, the need for those sort of massive pain and catharsis becomes less. So we can start eliminating those bears from our lives and in all the forms that they exist. You know, whether that's relationships, a job, you know, like, you know, alcohol, right? Like, you know, whatever the bears may be for you, you can also love them. You can also give yourself the space to say that it's okay that I love the bears. It's okay that I loved that thing that hurt me. Because that is healing. That is healing. When we're still in the space of saying that the other person is toxic and the other person is at fault and that we, you know, that we don't deserve all of that, you're still not, you maybe have done a lot of healing, right? This is a long journey and it takes a lot, but you're still not in that space of like accepting, like that is the part that's really gross in all of this, that's really uncomfortable, is not cutting off, not transforming those things and people in the past as ways in which we were a victim, right? Because we weren't a victim. Those things, we needed those things at that time. We needed those things at that time. And those people participated in it, and so did we. Okay? And so, like, ultimately, finding forgiveness for yourself and your behaviors, your own toxicity, and the ways that you know, all of those things, like finding love and forgiveness for yourself as well as the other people, it's just a massive part of healing. That is how you ultimately surrender to this journey, is like with love and compassion for yourself and others, being able to let go and just have faith that you are on the right path no matter where you are, and to trust in that faith that you can walk forward and trust yourself. That you can trust yourself and you can rebuild yourself in the vision of your highest self. Okay? Right. This is Bug, by the way. So I'm going to go back. Oh, by the way, this is an unfinished painting, but that was the jaguar. And those were some other visions and symbols that I saw, like, during that. This is, like I said, it's unfinished. But I think how I'll close this out. I'm sure this is really long. I don't know if I've never seen anybody do like a blubbery crying on YouTube, but I guess here it is. I felt it was important ultimately, even though it is a lot of personal stuff and it's a lot of vulnerability for me. What I do genuinely want to do with this channel is to like help share with you guys my healing journey so that you guys can get there too. Like, you know, the whole journey can be so confusing. It can be overwhelming. It can be toxic. It's definitely painful, but it is worth it. It is worth it. So anyway, I had actually painted this. I finished this painting. This is the riddle of the raven in the writing desk. I painted it 4/20/2019. And this was actually about 7 months before I saw my person for the last time, right before COVID and all that. Anyway, yeah, so, but anyway, this is basically in it. You can see there's a raven, and there's my heart, my bloody heart torn out of my chest. And there's a letter to my person. It says, "I've spilled rivers of ink to you these past years gone by. The purity of my intentions is matched only by the darkness of your own. I no longer cling to hope for your redemption, at least not in this life. May we meet again in the next, as I will always be grateful to you for your darkness, your weakness. Surviving you led me to unearth all of my light and strength. I wish your soul peace and healing and safe passage when it returns to the stars among our constellations of time, space, love, and eternal light. And I feel like I finally found, even though this was years ago that I painted this, I finally found that energy of like release that I had so desperately been wanting. You know what I mean? But there's also a recognition that, like, for me, a big piece of that with my twin was like still allowing myself to love him. Like, I know that sounds weird because we feel like releasing is about letting go and not loving, not extending that energy. And what I see at this point in the journey is this was a guy that was just as fucked up as me. You know what I mean? And so I do wish that for him. I do wish him that healing. And I'm just so grateful that I found it for myself. And I am grateful for this entire experience and journey, and even this person who was, I wouldn't be here if I hadn't met this person. Wouldn't be where I am today in terms of my healing. And so I really, really am grateful for that. But yeah. Okay, so like I said, that was definitely emotional for me. I'm not sure if any of you made it through that between my hoarse voice and rambling about my spiritual journey and all of the blubbering and crying. But I probably won't post again a reading. I really need to let my voice heal. So I probably won't post a reading again for a couple days unless I really feel like there's a reading that I need to do. But I'm just going to give myself some time to heal my voice. And also, I finally got in a bunch of supplies for like the warding kits and protection kits and my candles and stuff like that. So I may be working on that. But, this weekend, hang in there. I know there's a lot of energies right now, but I really wish you all this kind of healing energy. And if you did survive this entire conversation, good for you and thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. Have a good one, guys.